G'day, and thank you for joining me. I'm Faintly Saintly, and this is Smash or Pass for the Humble Choice February 2025. Now, if you're like me, every month I go out and do a bunch of research on all the games on offer in each choice bundle, just so I get an idea of whether it's worth it for me. What this series aims to do is share with you my insights into each bundle, including the quality of each game, how it's been received, and the value of the bundle over buying the game separately, to help you decide whether this month's bundle will have you smashing the select games button or passing and saving your $15 for next month. If this video helps you, please consider subscribing for more. I also cover new and upcoming indie games and VR titles, which right now includes an ongoing playthrough of Arcane Age, one of the most impressive new VR experiences I've ever had, which I definitely recommend you check out. Alright, let's get on with it. Now, the first game on this list is notable, but not necessarily for a positive reason. Immortals of Aveum. You'll notice over here doesn't include a Steam key. This is one of the rare times that a Humble Choice game will not be on Steam. Now, this says it is an Origin key, I believe, but my understanding is that Origin doesn't exist anymore. That's become EA Play or whatever their equivalent of their own launcher is. So for some people that's a deal breaker, so keep that in mind. Although it's not offered as a Steam key, it does actually have a presence on Steam. So we can still come here and get an idea of what this game is all about. It is a single-player first-person magic shooter that tells the story of Jack as he joins an elite order of battle mages to save a world on the edge of abyss. I'm watching this gameplay here, it seems like exactly as it described, first-person magic is casting all sorts of spells, which does look pretty impressive. It's not a bad-looking game. One thing we'll notice here is that the recent reviews are mixed, which is less than 60% of the 57 reviews in the last 30 days are positive. Overall, 71%. Being as this was a non-Steam game, I actually did bring up the Metacritic page for this one as well, which told a very similar story. The critics, based on 77 reviews, gave it a 69. User reviews, based on 333, are 6.1. So it's not a fan favorite. As we scroll down, you'll see normally it's worth 90 Australian dollars, currently discounted to 13, but that's pretty hefty for a game price, even in Australian dollars. And you'll see here also it incorporates de novo. It requires your EA account, of course, and you need to obviously agree to the terms and conditions of the EA service. Somehow, 3 reviews here are listed as 9, 8, and 8 out of 10. But everything else I can sort of see paints a completely different picture. In terms of, actually, let me just check, was there a Steam Deck? No, not supported on Steam Deck. Okay, it's been nominated for a few awards, mostly for art direction, fantasy, and visual effects. Animation, art direction, costume. So it is a pretty game, well designed, but maybe the game itself isn't the best. So system requirements are pretty modest. Go back to an RX 580 or a 1070 as the minimum. Recommended 6800 XT or a 3080 Ti, which I assume a lot of the gaming population probably can cover that pretty comfortably these days. Let's see what people are saying. So this one, 37 hours on record, which I tend to give a bit more weight to some reviews that only have a few hours. But basically they're saying the performance is subpar, de novo, EA launcher, terrible writing and dialogue. It's not looking too positive for this game. Forcing myself to get through it. Hides a one-dimensional, dime-a-dozen story and basic gameplay behind pretty colours and illusion of choice. Game crashes. Should have listened to the person that made the being on the fence review. Save yourself the trouble. Don't waste your bandwidth. So, not glowing reviews. This one is positive. Crashes every time I got into a feign or a lair. That sounds positive. This one's positive. Quite a wonderful game for a debut title. Mentions the crashes again. Still only 4 hours. I'm going to find a positive with a lot of hours. 18, 25, 33. Average game at full price, but it's top tiered in current days with 85% discount. So that might tell you a lot. Probably not worth the full asking price based on that. But, you know, for $13 or potentially as a little bonus in a humble choice, it might be worthwhile. But for me, I don't think I'm interested in trying this one.
Bummer.
Next up we have Trepang 2 by Trepang Studios and published by Team 17. Become the ultimate badass in Trepang 2, a gory, action-packed FPS set in the near future. Unleash all hell on your enemies, dodge bullets, and leave a trail of destruction in this hardcore and frenetic shooter. This one came out in June 2023, and by all reports, a lot of people are comparing this to the original Fear, if you remember that one. So there'll be a lot of visual effects, possibly slowing down time, diving through the air, excellent gunplay, and a horror element as well. It looks like it's a bit gory, yeah, as you can see there. So it's going to be a little bit creepy. Again, it does seem very reminiscent of the original Fear. Overall, it's very positive. The most recent reviews, 93%. Over the last 30 days are very positive, and overall 93%. So that's a good sign. Anything over 90 is a really good sign, especially over the lifetime of a game. And the recent reviews tell us that they haven't done anything to ruin the game, so that's a plus as well. So the usual price is about $45, currently on sale for $22.50. And it is verified compatible with the Steam Deck, which is nice. I don't know, I personally wouldn't be playing a first-person shooter with a controller, let alone a handheld. But, you know, that's up to you, if that's your thing. It is visually impressive. Lots of nice environments. Looks like we're in a bit of a mansion or something here. Whereas before we're in facilities and all sorts of different locations. So it is a good-looking game, that's for sure. Now I'm just looking at all these different bundle offerings here. We've got bundles with Ghost Runner. We've got bundles with Proteus. There is a season pass, so I don't know if that's possibly a red flag. What does the season pass get us? Let me just have a quick look here. That is rated as positive as well, which is unusual. Often you'll find DLC or season passes as negative because people will find they don't offer very much value. Looks like we have a survival mode DLC, a Blade Kisser DLC with close, brutal combat with a sword. So it looks like there's a bit of a gameplay switch up there. 3 new weapons, 2 new side missions, 9 combat simulator maps, 3 HVTs, and new intel. If you think that's worthwhile for a few extra dollars, feel free. You also get things like the soundtrack and okay, so there's 2 separate DLCs that are combined into that season pass. So there you go. Very good. What are people saying about this one? Actually, before I get there, system requirements. The minimum is GeForce 760 or Radeon HD 7870, which is probably, I'm going to say, manageable by just about everybody who's watching this video right now. Recommended is only a 1060 or an RX 590, so it's not too intensive, which is good, especially for a game that was released 2023. So that's a pretty good sign in an age where people are increasingly not optimizing their games. All right, as you can imagine, most of the reviews we can see at first glance are positive. Great story, great gunplay, definitely recommend. Peak, it's good. It's fun, can be both stealthy or guns out crazy. Good for either player style. That's actually a good to know. Sometimes games will lean one way or the other, and they'll throw the stealth mechanics in as an afterthought. But you know, while some games it's not worth doing that, but this sounds like it could be, you know, fun to try different things. Not exactly a Fear game, often plays more like a modern online competitive shooter. Okay, so this person doesn't agree that it's necessarily an analog of a Fear-like. And neither does this person. Only 2.5 hours on, but after reading so many times this game is supposed to be like Fear, I bought it in the Steam Winter Sale. I have to wonder if and when these people were writing such things played the original Fear. This does not come close to what Fear 1 and 2 achieved in terms of combat feel, atmosphere, level design, and storytelling. The game itself is okay-ish. Well, there you go, that's their opinion. That's a little bit against the grain. There you go, 66 hours. The game is good. Say no more. A bit short, but pretty fun. So I wonder if they've finished that whole game in their 6.3 hours on record. There are 12,000 more reviews, so if you're still on the fence, you can keep reading. Sounds like there's lots of people having something to say about this one, but overall this sounds really positive, especially if you like first-person shooters and if you enjoyed Fear back in the day as one of the best feeling FPSs of its time, I would say, in terms of gunplay. For me, I think that will be a smash. Now, next on the list is Total War Pharaoh. Now, this is an interesting one because you'll notice on the choice page, it says Total War Pharaoh Dynasties. So what does that mean? Basically, Total War Pharaoh came out in October 2023 to mixed reviews. A lot of people are saying it just wasn't quite complete. It wasn't satisfying to play. There was a lot of issues with the game. And basically, it was not well received at all. So in the following year, Pharaoh Dynasties was released. This is a free addition to Total War Pharaoh. So what they've done is actually gone back, created some new content, changed up the gameplay, and basically reworked the game to make it a bit more enjoyable. And it sounds like that worked. It was well received at the time. 83% of total reviews are positive, giving it a very positive rating on Steam. However, one thing I have just noticed is recent reviews are mixed, with a less than 70% in the last 30 days. So we'll see if something has changed there. In terms of price, the base game is $59.99 or $60 in Australian. This is a free edition on top of that. So presumably you're getting the base game and the free patch, if you want to call it. Now, Total War obviously has been a thing for quite a long time. The franchise, I think, has been going since at least the mid-2000s. And seems to be very positive. A lot of people love it. Personally, I don't know why, as a strategy game fan, it's never really done it for me. But I have to admit, it looks impressive. The scale of the battles are just huge. And it just seems like there's a lot to it. Especially if you're somebody who's, fascinated by the setting. And this one, obviously, being Pharaoh, you can imagine where that would be. So yeah, personally, not too excited by it, but I do understand that a lot of people do love this series, and it sounds like with the Dynasties add-on, it could be worthwhile. It does include de nouveau, so keep that in mind if that is something you're not a fan of. Steam Deck compatibility is unknown. Let me see if the base game... Okay, the base game is unsupported, so it doesn't sound too positive. Then again, I don't know how a game like this, a grand strategy 4X game would go on a handheld, but again, I don't own one, so I'm not really in a place to comment on how well that might work. Minimum requirements are pretty minuscule. GTX 660 or an R9 270. Recommended is a 1660 Ti or RX 480, so not particularly demanding at all in terms of graphics. Most people watching this should be able to play this game. So let's see why the recent reviews are negative. Game is unplayable. AI is broken. Cheating you by having 2 full stacks, having only 1 city. Okay, so, yep, and again, AI cheats on resources and keeps huge armies they have virtually no way to sustain. So it sounds like some artificial difficulty with the AI just basically pulling things out of their behinds and cheating. There's only 4 or 5 battle maps, no more than that. The brainless map AI literally declares war for no reason and never attacks. Okay, so there's some AI complaints by the sounds of it. I was sold on the Dynasty update, as I was told how much this game has improved, but it really hasn't. The campaign has no substance, the battles are reliant on blobbing everything together, and actually being able to tell what unit is what on the battlefield is impossible. So that's interesting. These negative ones, they're all relatively low hours. It's not 3.6. These are over 20, so not, not nothing. They've certainly given the game a fair try. Then you get this fella, Chopper's king of something. Over 1,000 hours. Great game, so much variety and challenge, it'll keep you entertained for hours. So that sort of contradicts what some of these points were about the lack of variety, but this person seemed to think that there was plenty of it, and 1,060 hours is a fair indication of that. Another one here, 153 hours, built for long campaigns and very replayable. Slower paced battles, but much more satisfying in combat than the fantasy titles, because of course Total War also has like the Warhammer based games as well, whereas this is more realistic. Okay, another negative with 10 hours. Resource management is awesome, that's about it. The aesthetic is not comedic. Unit abilities do not seem to make a difference. That's interesting. 95 hours, trash game. Okay, sure. But, as we said, overall, mostly positive. This is an interesting point, this negative review here. Last update was on September 2024, so it seems like this game is essentially done, and probably not receiving ongoing support based on that. But one thing I'm seeing is that all the larger hours, with hundreds of hours, or thousands in some cases, are positive. So people are sticking around. Sometimes you don't even see these. So people are getting hooked and sticking around and playing a lot. And as I said, there's probably a huge amount of fans of this franchise, and it's probably scratching that itch, and people are loving it. So for me personally, and this is where I've got to draw the line. Am I reviewing this for me, or am I reviewing this for everyone else who might be playing? For me personally, I'm not that interested in this. So for me, it would be a pass. But for you, based on the reviews, and if you're a fan of the franchise, I'm going to say it sounds like a no-brainer. Definitely smash for this one if you don't have it already.
Bummer.
Next up is Fabledom. Set in a wholesome fairy tale world, Fabledom is a laid-back city builder. Enjoy the growth of your settlement, interact with your neighbours, and defend your kingdom from magical creatures, all to find true love and live happily ever after. This is somehow one that has not been on my radar at all. I'd never heard of this one, but looking at it, it does seem very charming with its art style, and the fact that it's a sort of a chill, casual city builder is quite appealing to me. I'm a fan of city builders. One thing that might put me off is that I'm currently still right into Against the Storm, which was in last month's bundle, and that's one I've been looking forward to playing for ages. So I'm sort of getting my city builder fix at the moment, so I'm not sure about taking on a new one. However, this does look very good. I love the art style. It's very charming, very happy and bright, and the setting is appealing as well, being sort of magical fantasy sort of setting there. And I mean, look at that, the cities are sprawling. It sort of makes you feel like it should just be like a little settlement sort of deal, but looks like you can get quite a bit done in this game. So released May 2024 to mostly positive and very positive reviews. Last month is 79% positive, but overall is 87%, which is a good sign. Usually goes for 31 Australian dollars, not currently on sale. Looks like it is also available in a couple of bundles, including The Wandering Village as another laid-back city builder, and Rias 2, which is a colony sim. That's the one that's based on like a sphere, isn't it? Like the planet. Haven't played that one myself actually, but there are some options there if you want to pick up another game at the same time. Although, do check the value of that. Playable on Steam Deck, which means it's not designed for it, but it will work. And perhaps being a more casual, laid-back experience, maybe that would go okay on a handheld, because you won't be rushing and fumbling with controls in a high-pressure situation like you would in a more intense style of game. Alright, system requirements are, again, pretty minuscule. Recommended is a 1070 or an RX Vega 56, so you should be fine in this day and age. Let's get to some of the reviews. Seeing lots of positives, not seeing a huge amount of play hours, which is interesting. Not like Total War, which we just looked at, which had people with hundreds and thousands. So I'm guessing this doesn't have the depth or longevity of that kind of game. But we'll have a look, you know. Fun, chill, nice to play for a few hours. Cute and relaxing. Amazing. There you go. So this is a decent one. It's got 27 hours. This person's obviously given the game a fair crack. I didn't feel happy completing this game. I suppose I just wished for certain things to be deeper. It's a game and the systems in place all work. I'm not sure how to say, but it wasn't anything remarkable. Okay. So they're saying it was good, I guess, but they're just saying it wasn't outstanding in any particular sense. The only city builder that I've played that wasn't completely overwhelming. Okay, so that's good to know. So if you play something like Civilization and you are, as they said, overwhelmed with all the options and mechanics and things that are all overlapping with each other, this seems like a nice easy one just to get into and just play. Build a cute city, get overwhelmed with logistics, delete and start again. So that's a bit contradictory. This person says they're getting overwhelmed, but still recommend it and still have played a fair chunk of the game. Okay. Pretty but unplayable in its current state, which is interesting. Don't think I've seen anyone else really commenting that they're having technical difficulties like that. But overall, it seems positive. I like Civ 6 and Animal Crossing, and this is like a more relaxing town builder. Like there are a few threats to dying, but lots of cute decor. So that's probably an interesting take on it as well. Someone who's a fan of Civ and Animal Crossing, this might be considered a little bit of a combination of the two. Well, it seems interesting. Like I said, I hadn't heard of this one before, and I probably am getting my city building fix at the moment, but I actually, as I get a little bit older, I do find that relaxing games like this can be quite fun, just because I like to have something on in front of me while I'm watching a show or something like that. Something that doesn't want to stress me out too much after a long day. So I think overall, I think this will be a smash. If it's your kind of thing, if you like chill games, you're not out there just trying to get, you know, the hardcore challenges, and you're happy just to sit back and enjoy yourself with a game like this, then it could be for you. For me, I think I would enjoy it, so that is definitely a smash for me. Okay, next up we have Griftlands. Now this one's been around for a few years now, and you've probably heard of it if you're into the indie game scene at all. It is a deck building roguelite where you negotiate, fight, steal, or otherwise persuade others to get your way. Every decision is important, be it the jobs you take, the friends you make, or the cards you collect. So it seems like it is a, you know, deck building card battler roguelike, but with additional elements to it, where you are actually interacting with other characters, doing jobs, and, you know, as it says, making choices. Just how deep that isn't exactly clear to me, and we'll get to that in a minute with some of the reviews. But it seems like it's a different sort of take on the traditional card battler thing here. So it's got some RPG and sort of even party management elements as well, I guess, because from what I gather, you can change the members of your party and hire them for jobs and things like that. But, you know, from a card battler perspective, it looks pretty standard, pretty straightforward. It is highly rated, very positive overall with 93%, but most recently only 76% are positive in the last month or so. So possibly something has changed, so we'll get into that, have a look. One thing I've just noticed is there is a demo available as well, so if you're interested, you can probably give that a try before you pull the trigger, if you're still on the fence about it. Overall, it sounds like a pretty good thing to me. One thing that I've never really gelled with, I guess, is the art style. It just doesn't click with me. I'm just not a huge fan, and I suppose it's a bit shallow, but it's just not something that immediately appeals to me just from looking at it. As we go down, it is Steam Deck verified, so you should have a good experience if you are a Steam Deck user, which is nice to know. And really, yeah, it should run on basically a toaster, so you should have no issues running this game as you would expect. Onto the reviews, most of them, as we saw, are positive. And we'll get to a few. Obviously, some people get right into these games, so we'll see a few with a lot of play hours. This one here is 45 hours. Good, fun, simple yet complex. Would have been made great by a little extra content, so maybe it doesn't have the longevity or replayability of a game like maybe Slay the Spire or something like that, which could be the pinnacle of this type of game. Weird Salmon says it fell flat and the story was uninteresting, although I did read in another review that the story is kind of optional. You can just skip the dialogue and just get straight to the events if that's what you're into as well, so you do, I suppose, have that flexibility. 51 hours. A standout gem in the world of strategy and roguelike games. Although this person speaks highly of the writing in the campaign, and the dialogue brings the characters and world to life. Good amount of customization. Combines the usual battles you see in the genre with negotiation battles with a separate deck and its own gameplay elements as well. Okay, so it's sort of like a double card game. You've got like a battle deck and a negotiation deck. Although I did read in one comment, this one here, 11 hours in, puts a lot of weight on the claim that decisions matter, but do they really? And they're saying, you know, whether you negotiate at every opportunity or murder every living thing in sight, the boss battle is still just a fight. And that's sort of reminiscent of, you know, the Deus Ex, where it was big on, Human Revolution, where it was big on the choice to go stealthy or negotiate or fight, but in the end, the boss fight was just combat until they revamped the game. So it is a little bit mixed in that regard, but it seems like at the base level it is a solid roguelike deck builder, if that's your thing. It is my thing, like I said, you know, it's one of my favourite genres, and Slay the Spire I've put an ungodly amount of hours into. But this one, I've always had my eye on it, it's always been on my radar, but I've just never pulled the trigger. I just thought, maybe it's not for me. But saying that, getting this for free, essentially, in a bundle-like choice, I'd probably give it a try then. You know, when it's there in front of me, I'll say, sure, I'll take it, I'll give it a try. But like I said, I can always try the demo as well if I would still be on the fence. Being as it is a very positive rated game and it's probably going to appeal to a lot of people, I think this one is definitely a smash. Okay, next up we have Tales and Tactics, and this one is essentially a tactical RPG in the form of a tabletop sort of battle. It's a roguelike squad-based auto-battler in a tabletop RPG setting. Draft your army, carefully equip and position your units, and make important choices, and meet a colourful cast of characters as you make ready for the grand tournament. As you make ready, okay? Yeah, so Hex Grid auto-battler, strategy tactical RPG, as you're probably gathering from the gameplay footage here. So you draft your army, you place them on the board, you equip them with different things, and then they go fight, basically. It does seem, it's like an appealing art style, looks pretty good. Looks like there's lots of characters, and I did see in the trailer lots of different creatures to choose from as well. So it looks like there's plenty of content involved. Very positive rating. This was only released just this August, actually. 81% are positive, with 80% recent positive as well. So that's pretty consistent, 80%. So usually it goes for $26.50. So pretty good value proposition there if this is your kind of game. It is playable on the Steam Deck, although not verified, so it's not a tailored experience there, but probably should work just fine. From what I can see, the interface doesn't seem too complicated, although there are, you know, a number of little buttons around the edges that might be tricky on a smaller or handheld screen, so keep that in mind. And as you'd expect, the recommended and minimum system requirements aren't anything to write home about. Pretty basic stuff, at least the 10,000 series or higher, NVIDIA, and recommend at least the 2000 series or higher, so nothing too extreme. Well, let's check out some of these reviews. So immediately I'm seeing a few with a fair amount of playtime. Oops. So we've got here, you know, 30 hours. Characters all played differently. Unlocks come at a good pace. And unlocks are able to be disabled. Okay, that's interesting. And gameplay is plain fun. Difficulty curve is good. Satisfyingly difficult without feeling unfair. That seems to be a little trend that we're seeing already. Okay, the effects are a little bit simpler than what you see in Teamfight Tactics, but it's a really faithful game to turn the auto battler genre into a roguelike. Okay, that's pretty good summary there from this person. It's played 80 hours. They even added asynchronous PvP, so you can do roguelike PvP if you prefer. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the mode, but notably different experience for people who play. That's interesting. Great game, very mellow, 150 hours, 60 hours, great little game, 80 hours, very solid. 20 hours single player roguelike, that's pretty much TFT. There you go. It reminds me of Slay the Spire. Almost every run has the potential for greatness, and you find yourself falling short. Too late to do anything about it. There you go. A bit of a frustration there, but let's have a look at some of the negatives here. I was initially unsure about purchasing this game, but I decided to give it a shot. My interest is most about PvE rather than PvP. Unfortunately, the gameplay feels overly self-centered. Most of the time, you're simply focused on choosing the passive ability you want and buying the corresponding units. Okay, fair enough. I've had units take more than 10,000 damage in battle and deal 10,000 damage in battle, achievement unlocked, and in the next I was instantly wiped out with no chance of winning. Do you like auto battler like Dota Underlords or whatever the LoL one is called? Do you like them to have a single player campaign that is pretty much the same every run? Do you like having a team of unbeatable champions that gets one shot in the very next battle? Do you like to slowly unlock more game features to make your game easier? Then this is the game for you. Interesting. So not everyone is a fan, as you can see, so 80% says most people are, but it sounds like there are some genuine and legitimate flaws as well. I don't mind auto battlers and I don't mind tactical RPGs, but I don't know if this one is sort of my style, I guess. Although it does look nice, and if it's something that sounds like it would appeal to you, it feels like it's got enough content there to keep it interesting as well. Personally, I would say that's a pass, but you can make that call for yourself.
Bummer.
And next up we have Naheulbeuk's Dungeon Master, and I've probably absolutely butchered that pronunciation, but forgive me for that. A dungeon in danger. Build, manage, and defend your tower in the satirical, heroic fantasy universe of Dungeon of Naheulbeuk, from a shaky establishment to an infamous lair. And as you can see here, this is basically a management game akin to possibly Dungeon Keeper or Evil Genius. It's got all the staples, I guess. You're building rooms, you've got minions running around. But what makes this different? That's what we got to find out. It is mostly positive. It was released in November 2023, so it's not too old. 73% positive, so sounds like there might be some valid flaws and criticisms as well. Although it says it's satirical and it's listed with a funny tag, so it probably does have some of that dark Dungeon Keeper humor to it as well. It looks pretty standard. Nothing out of the ordinary or particularly noteworthy, but we'll carry on. Usually that goes for $36.50, so probably good value to pick up in the bundle if you are interested. It is playable on Steam Deck, not specifically supported, and it will again run on a potato. Nothing too crazy there. Alright, a lot of the recent reviews appear to be negative, and that's interesting, and most of them have a decent amount of playtime in them. 13 hours, boring. Comedy is fun at the start, but gets stale quickly. About the gameplay, not sure what the developers had in mind, but for a dungeon management, you can barely understand what is going on. I don't recommend it simply because it isn't what I was hoping it to be. I don't know if I was really doing good or what. It just feels slow. Game was supported post-launch for 5 months by the devs before swiftly being forgotten. The last update was April 2024. There you go. So it sounds like development has stopped and the game is no longer being supported, if that's anything to go by. As a huge fan of the Dungeon Keeper genre of games for a long time, I want to recommend this game because games in this genre are rare. However, it's a negative review and it's quite extensive. Okay, so yeah, if they're playing a management Dungeon Keeper game, they want to be the Dungeon Keeper. So it sounds like you don't kind of have that empowerment. It's not immersive. Sounds like controls are an issue. I won't go, too in depth into every review, but it sounds like there's an interesting one there to read if you are weighing this one up. It is a nice game, but the bugs are too much in the long term. Doesn't sound good, but what are some of the positives? Okay, it's funny. I wish there was a way to designate areas where certain minions can go, so a bit more control would be nice. 14 hours, it's great, but it's too short and quite easy. Finished it in 14 hours. Absolutely love it. 21 hours, okay. 18 hours, adorable and funny. Interesting. So it sounds like there are some, as I said, valid criticisms. It's not going to be the best game in the world, but if it's your kind of thing, it may appeal to you if you like that kind of humor and setting. But it does, from what I gather from those reviews, just seem like a bit of a downgrade to what's already out there with Dungeon Keeper and then, the spiritual successors, Dungeons, Evil Genius, that kind of thing as well. Sounds like if you're into this kind of genre, there are better options out there. For me, I'm going to say it's a pass.
Bummer.
And finally, we come to the last game, My Little Universe. Stranded on a barren moon with nothing but your tools, a fuelless ship, and celestial powers of creation, you are destined to recreate what was once lost and be the hero of your own little universe. Don't forget to call in up to 3 of your friends to join your journey in the split-screen co-op mode. Okay, well that's a good start. So, co-op is good. Looks like there's a bit of dungeon crawling, bit of a sandbox. It's got an interesting perspective. This sort of spherical, I don't know what you'd call it, like a planetary perspective on the game makes everything look very small and cramped. But it's an interesting art style. Some pretty good little monsters happening here. It looks tile-based. And it is, like, you got that 3D stick figure sort of character model there as well, so it's pretty simplified. That seems okay. This was released in October 2023. Usual price is $22 odd. Overall, 90% of reviews are positive. So that's a pretty good average. Okay, and judging by this trailer, it looks like you actually build out your world around you as well. So it's not just landing on a planet and exploiting it for resources. It looks like you're actually crafting your world as well while you mine and harvest and do things like that. Seems interesting. Playable on Steam Deck. The developers have left comments. It works perfectly. The demo version is going to be released soon, and all the Steam Deck users will be able to play as well. Okay, so they've considered it and tested it, and it does work. It's just not counted as verified. So something to keep in mind as well. Once again, not a graphically intensive game, so basically most, I imagine, should be able to run it pretty well. And let's have a look at some of the reviews. Pretty simple. 30 hours, recommended, good. 35 hours. I never thought that the best farming tool in a mining game wasn't a pickaxe or an axe, but a sword. There you go. Do you recommend it? Yes, if you like to grind stuff for plenty of hours and you enjoy building worlds little by little. But no, if you don't like to repeat the same thing for hours. The last 3 worlds are especially grindy. There you go. This is literally those mobile apps you see in the ads, but like the actual thing. And no ads. It's grindy, but it's super chill. So it seems like it could almost be an idler. I mean, have a look at some of these play times. 690 hours. And they reviewed it after 60 hours. 9th of January, that was last month. So they've played 600 something hours in a month. So surely they've left that idling, right? Okay. It's a game with a unique concept and execution where you open up a world of hexagonal... You open up a hexagonal world, by collecting and refining different resources where grinding is fun. Interesting. The game isn't perfect. If you fall off the world inside a dungeon and crawl out right as you die, you can need to restart the area. Okay. This one, product received for free, but played for 320 hours and recommends it. Yep, I first played this game on mobile and fell in love with it. When I found out there's a Steam version, I got so excited. It's slightly different from the mobile game, but it's just as amazing. Okay, so those earlier comments about it being similar to the mobile ads is probably something there. So this was based on a mobile game, so that probably says a little bit about it. Super fun, but I beat it in 4 days. Lots of fun. Fun and easy to play. Here's a not recommended. Just because there's no middle option for reviews, only yes or no, I'm on the fence about this game. Because while my first experience wasn't ideal, I'm still open to giving this game a chance. Loading screens should give the player something to inform them. I do appreciate the frequent autosaves. Okay, so they're not really talking about the gameplay so much, but the features and functions of how the game works. Seems interesting. Probably not something I'll go out of my way to play. The co-op is appealing, but the fact that it does seem to be more or less an adaptation of a mobile game sort of puts me off a little bit. I'm not seeing the great appeal in this one. Possibly tailored towards a younger audience or somebody who doesn't mind just grinding with something chill and casual in the background while they watch something or do something else. It might be for you, but for me, I'm going to say this one is a pass.
Bummer. Bummer.
In closing, as you can see, I only gave a few games a smash in the end, so the decision to buy this bundle comes down to 3 games for me: Trepang, Fabledom and Griftlands. And while each of these games are highly rated and have merit as undeniably good experiences, I struggle to see myself making the time to play these over other games that I'm already playing and enjoying in similar genres. Unless anything in this bundle really appeals to you or has been on your wish list waiting for a good sale, this is a hard one to recommend, and it gets even harder should you already own some of the more appealing games that it includes. My final call is that I will pass, but I'll hope for some more enticing offerings again in March. Thanks again for watching, it means a lot, and I hope you found this video somewhat useful. If you want to see more like this, please consider subscribing, and I hope to see you again for the next one. Cheers.